work, and then we come home and we make dinner, and then I would always go to practice or, something like that. And so I was just trying to like fill my day with other things to keep myself busy while I felt like we were getting through the beginning of this and what I thought was going to be very short. And now here we are, like, what are we, 10 months in? And we're still, still not doing the normal things yet, in a sense. We aren't back to dancing in person. And I didn't realize how big of a thing that was for me. Just going and being at the studio with my friends, like that was my social life. And so not having that's been really hard. Like that was it, the way that I kind of shaped my life. That was the time that I had allotted for my social life, was going to dance and going to rehearsal, and those were my friends, and those were the people that I hung out with, during that time, and being like a mom and a wife, and I run a business. Like, dance was like the time that I had set aside for myself to, be social, and not having that was really a huge adjustment for me. Like, so I definitely struggled with that, not having that outlet, whether it's the dancing part or the social part, either of those,
My experience of the pandemic has largely been in isolation. It's largely been rooted in fear. It's largely been rooted in feeling othered. It's largely been rooted in facing my own mortality. It's been rough. I think on a broad social level, it's really reinforced how much of our country ostracizes populations who are vulnerable in some ways. In my case, as someone who experiences a disability, who's high risk, I've really seen this lack of inclusion. The conversation has rarely, in my perspective, been how this pandemic affects us all, and how can we create strategies to mitigate this for everyone, not just those who are more vulnerable. And then it's hard to not personalize that. It's hard not to be the person who's quarantined in her home for 10 months and not listen to the messages that, you are other and outside and abnormal.
My family lives in town, which is great. And I have my immediate family and some extended family who live in town. And we've all been a part of a bubble, which I'm very grateful for. And I appreciate the fact that, we never even considered limiting our bubble to just my immediate family and then not being a part of their bubble, or them not being a part of our bubble. We all just knew that we would all be a bubble. And for me, that was really special. I know people who didn't have any family, who don't have, they don't have any family in town. But, I also appreciate my friends. And I saw some people who, their bubble was their friends, or people who got to live with, their closest friends, and they got to experience this and do things like work together and have hobbies together and whatnot. And that wasn't necessarily my experience when it comes to friends. And so there were definitely times where I took that personally, and it definitely affected me emotionally. And as hard as it was, and even as silly as it seems now, I feel like it was an opportunity for me to process a belief that I had as it relates to self-worth. But it was difficult. It definitely was difficult, and it definitely made me feel isolated. I haven't spent much time thinking about this, and there's the human belief, and then there's science, right? I've heard many times that the human species is meant to be part of a group, a part of a pack. You know, human species is meant to be a part of a pack. And I could believe that. And so I think being isolated is heartbreaking sometimes.
For me, like, I would say my isolation is, it's people who have, you know, made their circles very small. So I don't really feel like I'm not seeing people. It's the people that have chosen not to, I'm not going to say see me, but they're probably just not really seeing anybody. You know, that for me was a pretty hard pill to swallow, you know, not being chosen for people's circles. Oh man, I thought we were tight. I thought we were closer than that. And I am not in your bubble. That hurt a little bit, you know, but I'm, as this keeps going on, I feel like I'm becoming more understanding of it than I was at the beginning. It's just the way that it is, you know, and you just have to understand because that's where we're at. I don't know. I'm in a different place. I think because I'm just not scared like some people are. And I don't know why that is. I can't explain it and I can't rationalize it for other people, but I'm just not. And so that definitely, just like, you know, where we're at in the world, it can be separating, you know, like I know there are people that don't hang out with me because I do see other people, and that's okay. You know, and I just have to live with that choice.
So I think I've been really lucky as far as isolation because I work with a lot of people that like to do the same kind of things that I do. So we're forced to be around each other all day at work. So we decided to do things in the summer together. So we'd go camping or mushroom picking or whatever. So it's a little bit strange, but I ended up doing more this summer probably than I ever have because it was like funneled into this one option. And that was great. I was outside a lot more because that was the only option. And I ended up really enjoying that. Having said that, you know, my kids haven't really hung out with anyone besides their cousins or people just out of necessity in almost a year, I guess 10 months. So that's tough. We don't have other people in our bubble really. So, and then I was living with my partner and he had 2 kids. So for a good bit, they had each other for company, but now I live in my own house. So now it's like, okay, well, are they still in my bubble? What are they doing now? It ends up being like this constant, what's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? Is taking people out of their lives to prevent them from getting sick worth the the isolation, what isolation does to mental health and all sorts of things. And then just normal kid growth things. I wonder if that's going to be affected, but I feel privileged to be able to keep them home as much as I do. And I think that they'll make up for this time, hopefully. I've had friends' kids that got COVID end up with heart problems and things like that. And I think it's probably easier to deal with some emotional trauma than it is to deal with lifelong heart or lung problems. So it's always bargaining. But I could see somebody else looking at that and making a different choice and not being wrong. It all depends on where you're at. So
I think the way that it's impacted me personally is that I've had to remove myself from what I knew my life to be. And that's been hard. I think in one way it's confirmed that I am more introverted than extroverted. I've always seen myself as kind of an outgoing introvert, which might be surprising for some people to hear because I can put it on. And when I put it on, it is on. But I am private and awkward, and I need time alone to recharge so I can put it on again. And this time, having to remove myself has connected me to that. And I know I can be alone. I've been primarily alone for 10 months with some breaks where my partner had the privilege of quarantining and getting tested so that he could spend some time with me. But largely, I've been alone. And that has changed because my partner's situation has changed. So my outlook is also going to be in solitude. I was thinking today, counting back the days of when I actually touched another human, and it's getting close to 100 days. And I think I'll just have to stop counting at some point, because how many days becomes too many days. So yeah, I would say, although I've been so lucky to not make a misstep and touch the wrong thing and piece of mail that someone breathed on, I've been impacted in different ways. I'm just kind of living. I have not had many moments where I could forget about the risk.
I forget sometimes, like you just forget what's going on out in the world, like it's just some days I just forget, like I forget that this is where we're at, that we can't go on a airplane easily. It's not like just spur of the moment, I'm going to go on vacation. Everything is so much more complicated in that sense. And I do forget. I just find myself kind of forgetting that it's happening, and I'm like, oh no, we can't actually do that. Like,
most of this pandemic has been spending time with myself and by myself, which has been extremely challenging at times. There have definitely been some times that I've hated it, but I feel like I'm the person that I've been the most connected to. And I'm also the person that I've been the most disconnected from. You know, when you think about like, you know, people say like, you know, you gotta like love yourself so that you can love others, or you gotta be a good friend to yourself so that you can be a good friend to others. You know, I think that in order to have healthy relationships with others and more genuine connections, you need to have a healthy relationship with yourself and be connected with yourself. I think because of all of the time that I've had to look internally and reflect on who I am, where I come from, where I want to go, the things I need to heal, the beliefs I need to let go of, and the beliefs that I need to reconstruct. I think I've had an opportunity to connect more with who I am in a deeper and in a more truthful way. And there have been a lot of times where I felt a lot of shame, and I felt very silly too. But I think I've definitely had a change of perspective.
I think just the way that everyone is sort of either forced to be with each other or forced to be away from each other, both of those things can either increase connection or decrease connection, which is interesting. Like I've seen both, you know, on either side. And connection isn't just sort of based on how close you are together. It's so much more than that. And I really feel like it's possible to maintain a really close connection from far away. But for me, I feel like if things aren't right in front of me all the time, I tend to just forget about them or just let things slide, or, you know, things don't spur me to call or talk, you know. So probably for me, like not having those constant interactions definitely makes connection harder.
I think for me, I have felt most connected to grief, which is awful. But what feels true to me is this cloud of grief, and it takes so many different shapes. I feel like we're all constantly living under this ever-present darkness. So yeah, I felt disconnected to myself. I've been questioning my identity during this time and how I move through the world. And so much of who I was wrapped into my connection to others. Creating with others, sharing time, being vulnerable. I recognize how lucky I have been in my life to have some of the deepest connections to people that go beyond, way beyond surface, and are like family to me. And I think part of who I am is connected to my relationship with others. And that has been such a casualty of this pandemic. And I haven't been able to answer that question of who am I without who I was.
I realized that as much as I love dancing, I didn't realize how important the social aspect of it was as well. I'm glad that I know now. Like, it took not doing it. I've never had a dance break before. I've always, because dance doesn't have seasons. It's just all year long. I'm glad that is one of the good things that has come out of this, that I'm realizing that as much as I love to dance, I'm realizing that the social part of it is also very important to me as well. So it has its ups and downs. Some days I'm like really glad for not having to go to rehearsal. I'm exhausted, and normally it's like, well, you've committed yourself to doing this show, so you have to go. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if your head hurts, whatever it is. It's been nice to not have to push myself when I don't feel like I want to. So it's complicated. It's good and bad. Every day feels different. Some days I'm happy about it, and some days I'm like, I just wish I could go to the studio and like get out of my house and like just check out for a little while and go, dance was like my therapy, essentially. And so it just, like I said, every day I feel different about it depending on the day and my mood. So.
I was thinking the other day about weird things that can only happen during in-person physical interactions that I'm just like, oh, I really just miss that. Like, whoever is listening to this right now, once you can, just do not take hugs for granted. That is like hugging whoever you want to hug, not taking that for granted, knowing that you can turn around and see a stranger and know that you can hug that person and everything's going to be fine and you're not going to feel awkward and they're not going to feel awkward. And that is such a powerful and beautiful thing. If I had known the last time you and I were in a car together, or the last time I saw you, that was going to be the last time I was going to be able to hug you for over 10 months, it would have been a much different hug.
I was talking with a friend the other day about the energy exchange that happens when you hug someone. It's more than this physical act, that it's an exchange of energy.
Trunks until they're tethered. How will they finally know? It's a language spoken with their eyes.
I struggle a little bit with hope, right? I think for me, it's more of trying to see the positive side of where things are right now. And what can you do to move forward in a way that is more truthful to you, but that you're still at peace? I've had some time to reflect on this because I was thinking about Amanda Gorman's poem, which was breathtaking. And after that, I felt so much hope. But it wasn't that type of hope that was, I was expecting that people would be a certain way and that things would only turn out a certain way. It was that hope of people are good. There is kindness and there's love. And I think that there is more kindness and love in society than there is not.
This has been a hard year for hope. I think hope looks like the unraveling of a sweater that's stopped by a knot that gets caught in the weave. I think it's a knot in the weave. I think that's what hope looks like to me. A break in the unraveling and a path of woven connection that continues on. I think that's what hope looks like to me. I think it's a knot in the weave.
Of Hope has been a community artist project by Enzina Marrari in partnership with the Anchorage Concert Association. Jose Isasa, Jesse Embley, Megan Kim, and Enzina Marrari performed this piece and shared their pandemic stories. This project also received support by Cook Inlet Housing Authority, the Alaska State Council on the Arts, the Alaska Bookmobile, and is sponsored by NAMI Anchorage. NAMI Anchorage is the local affiliate of the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and our vision is resiliency, recovery, and wellness for all. We provide support, education, and advocacy for individuals affected by mental illness, their families, friends, and community. If you'd like to learn more about our support groups, classes, or programs, please visit namianchorage.org and reach out.
Thank you for coming out, everyone. A lot of feels right now, I'm sure. I know I've got a lot. The thing I feel the most is some gratitude for you all and for the performance we just saw. Thanks again for coming out, everyone. And if you want to take a moment to put your hands together for the performers. It was wild to hear so many, yes, and your horns together. It's really wild to share so many completely personal feelings together. And it's an absolute gift. His hair blowing in the wind. He's out wandering again, searching far beyond the fringe, searching for the man within. Far away, his heart aches on the shores of dried up lakes, far away from the feelings he calls home. So lonesome in those sands, miles from her reaching hands, far away, but he's never alone. Her hair freezing in the wind, she's out wandering again. Will it ever climb past 10? That's the frozen she's been in. And she's waiting for the day, the melt away the snow, sun of spring that will finally lend some heat. For there's a heart deep below, it still beats and now she knows, and she's longing for the day their arms will meet. They've been wondering again, does this wandering make them kin? Surely that's how love begins, knowing where each other's been, so you can be there as a friend. And they're waiting for the day, it's not frightening to say, words that tie them like the roots of aspen groves. 'Cause there is strength in a bond that grows a whole life long, a gentle peace like the murmuring of doves. That's a feeling they call love. That's a feeling they call love. We're all wandering, my friends. Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you all tonight. From our whole crew to all of you, thank you so much for coming out and processing with us and feeling hope with us. This is what makes our community so incredibly great. So thanks for being a part of it. Thank you.